Hello and Allah Apa, which means God is glorious. My name is Abbas Tamori. I'm the elder of Baha'u'llah. Today is Sunday at 9:15, 12th of June. This message directed really to the member of the CCP, the Communist Party of China, which means majority of them. I feel responsible to speak about China, a civilization that I have gone there for this purpose to see it firsthand. And I was very much amazed of how much progress is made in this country. So, my talks today, like most of the time, is based on the science. I'm a scientific philosopher. And I want to talk about what is ruling right now the planet Earth, and what are the deficiencies and what are the good things. A quick survey tells us that around the middle of the 18th centuries, there was three types of opinion or ideology appeared in the planet Earth. In Europe, there was the system of capitalism coming about, which resulted in formation of the United States of America and the Western countries, which is based on the individual freedom economically and socially. Basically, there is no border to it, or the border can be controlled by the individuals. And the system of communism, proposed essentially by Karl Marx, Herbert Engels. In this system, there is a control over the economy and over the social freedom. The third one, it was a huge ideology, if you like to call it, happened in Iran. It's called Baha'i Faith, which deals with the aspect of the spiritual values. If we look at Karl Marx and Marxism in general, there's a formula. Karl Marx, especially Pinnick in his books, explains a formula how things changes in the planet. Well, according to Marx, the foundation is economy. That is where the problem comes. That is the real thing. Once it's formulated, it creates everything else, from the science, from the arts, from the social understanding and freedom and everything else. But the base is matter, material and economy. I've liked this formula, but I have found this formula can be applied to the social issues as well as the spiritual issues. For example, the rules and the laws that rule over a village, that rules and laws cannot be applied to the citizen in a big city. They demand more. Therefore, that system will have to be changed to accommodate the new citizen, where they're grown up, where their knowledge is more. For example, you cannot run the university the same way as you run an elementary school. The rule and the discipline and whatever that is in a kindergarten, a preschool, cannot be applied to the students' university because they're grown up. They demand more laws, better laws. And it is in the same way in the spiritual realm. Today, the citizen of the earth, with this advancement of the science, technology, and everything else, they cannot understand the explanations of Bible or Quran or Avesta or Gita or Torah to be useful. It just does not go. We can't talk about God or a spiritual value to a 5-year-old kid the same way we're talking to an adult child. This is why all these religions of the past have become useless. They have no room. But it seems it is an essential need. So what's underlying factor for the revolution, for the changes, is really not economy, but it's the needs of a human being. Human being does need economy. It does need economy which deals with everything that body requires, which material explains everything. And the laws around it are very simple. Science can explain everything. But they are also in the need of the social needs. Every man is looking to have a woman looking to a man. They need to have children have to grow up. There's no scientific way to explain these things. So here it comes philosophy and postulation how to do it. And there's no particular way of doing it. This is happening differently everywhere in the world. Especially in the case of the spiritual values, it's very difficult because it cannot be scientifically determined to its truth, to its reality. And it might work, it may not. So the Karl Marx word of the religions, the opium of the society, is completely correct at his time for the dispensations of the past. But it is not working with the Baha'i faith. Baha'i faith is a different thing. He was not aware of it. So, based on these three types of thinking, these three revolution, spiritual, economical, and social, we have right now two big civilizations. One in the West, which is Europe and mainly represented by United States of America, and in the East, which was by the East Europe and Russia, which they're gone kind of, and now mainly by China. So China and the United States are the two forces really, with two different ideologies that they're running the planet. And you hear constantly bickering and criticizing each other, mostly United States and mostly the people in West. They are seriously objecting at China's way of ruling their people. I've thought that some of the things that they say, I brought some note for myself to talk about this. Those who believe in the capitalistic system and the social freedom the way it is in the West, they're saying the system of China is a closed system. It prevents the individual progress of people. you don't get great scientist, great philosopher as it was, and it is still in Europe and United States. You don't have these big names like Einstein, like Max Planck, even Karl Marx. This kind of a great individuals that is really the backbone of our civilization, it cannot grow, it cannot develop within a closed system like China. Because the incentive is dead. The progress is closed. Very difficult. You're not going to get anywhere with it. So what's the use to say anything? Plus the fear from the dictatorship, people are scared. So we don't see in the past 100 years a great many of Chinese in astronomy, in physics, in chemistry, in biology, in philosophy. Not too many. And even if there are today's civilization in China, it's all borrowed from the West because they themselves can produce it. Now, of course, we're changing a little bit. This is one of the main objections they have towards the system. They say if this system would be running the planet Earth, it would have been completely destroyed. For example, they say, look at the difference between the founder of the United States, George Washington, and Mao Zedong. Mao was a great man, there's no doubt. There's a lot of positive things to say about him. It did bring China, from the hand of the feudals, from the hand of Sun Yat-sen. It brought it into a system that it went forward in many, many ways. But because the brain was the CCP, and on that the main person was Mao, out of goodness of his heart, he made a lot of mistakes. Cultural evolution. You know what happened there. Go read it for yourself. The leap forward. And a whole bunch of things. He started even to attack his best people, like Deng Xiaoping was sent to exile. He wouldn't listen to nobody, and nobody could say anything. So if such system be in the planet, where people, individuals have no power to object at it or come by, planet will die. So this is a problem. But Chinese are not sitting quiet, and they have their own objection to the system. See, I have thought some of them. 5, 6, 7 of them. They say that, Chinese people, they say that, sure, there are great people, in the West, but it's like a double-edged sword. This freedom also brings a lot of bad people. And the people that are not controlled. For example, many billionaires have many islands all over the world, in Pacific, Atlantic. These guys, in their own little island, it's like their own countries. It's not under jurisdiction of anybody. They can be doing anything there. They could develop medicine, poison. Some of them, they may not like the humanity. They might want to destroy it. Because one person decides. So in U.S., besides the government, they say, there are many, many, many small governments. But they can decide the fate of the society. They can come up and order around. Also, this system, although elected by people, is like the sheriff in the Western movie has to listen to the big farmers. They will decide what to do. If they don't pay money, if they don't support, They don't, or if they go advertisement, bring other people, they can just challenge the government. Example right now is Donald Trump. He's an ex-president, just challenging the system. Why? Because under Freedom Act, he can say whatever he wants. Completely brainwashing people. This is the big disease that it's the disadvantage of this kind of freedom. The lack of having a fully powerful, in control government, they say that no one can fight with it, no one can challenge it, it causes the appearance of many people, like Bill Gates, like this owner of the Facebook or whatever, like Elon Musk. They'll decide what they want. Like Elon Musk went and bought Twitter, and now he says Donald Trump, he can come on Twitter and say what he wants. But this guy goes in there and controls the mind of people. So this government, this kind of freedom is not stable. This is not a stable government. That's what they say. And these people, they're not just after the people's pockets and people's money. They want to divide the brain of the people in different ideology. They're all conflicting with each other and creating chaos. We know this has happened in the United States when the North and South happened. This was also the problem in China when Mao Zedong had to fight Chiang Kai-shek, the guy who took the power from Sun Yat-sen, and they united to get rid of the Japan, which was going to Manchuria. But later on, Chiang Kai-shek, this new guy, was killing basically virtually all the communists in China, but not give them, the light of the day. So Mao got rid of them, and he said that we can't have ideologies to uproot the system, because if there's no system, then there's no brain. People die, people get perished. So the best things that you really look at it, they say, Chinese, they say, well, okay, you are electing people democratically and you're bringing, and you're calling us dictator by your standard, and you call it yourself freedom, better and superior. But really the freedom, a Chinese member or a good member of the CCP says, the freedom that you're offering to people, it does not apply to 99% of the people. Such freedom is already in China too. Everybody can watch what they want. They all have media, all kind of, any kind of. They don't care who is in power, who is not, what regime is in. They don't have the money, they don't have time, they have to work and bring food at home. So as in the U.S. So this freedom is for maybe one fraction of 1% of the society that they like to be free to rule the people, to bring the government down. And that is not there. So drug dealers have no room in China. See, pornography has no room in China to destroy family values. Crime is dismal in China. So you have, they say, you have in U.S. many capitalists. We have one capitalist, which is the government of China, rules over all other small capitalists. Yes, They might exploit people, they might get money, but it does not go in the control of one person. It comes in the control of the government of China, which is the representative of people. And really, we have seen in the last 50 years how much have they spent money to bring China where it is. But this is not the case in U.S. All this money made out of Microsoft, out of Facebook, out of Twitter, God knows, out of Elon Musk and millions of others, they go into control of an individual. He does what he wants to do with it. U.S. cannot get those money. So the government is fragile, and the freedom is not applicable. It's not useful to 99.99% of the people. Ordinary people, they don't care who's ruling, a Democrat, Republican. They just want to bring the food at home. This is the two sides of the story that they do say. So, to talk about the spiritual value, a spiritual need, which is the Baha'i faith, there's no definition of it even right now. People think spirituality is a bunch of predictions, it's yoga, it's meditations. There's no definition of what's a spiritual. And what role, most importantly, it has in society. A spiritual value is a must-needs part of the society. And its station, its manifestation, is the family. You cannot organize a family by the scientists, by the philosophers, by the artists, by the lawyers. You can't. Because a man and woman are coming together based on love. Love cannot be defined neither by science nor by philosophy what it is. And trust. How do you trust a woman that she doesn't change or he doesn't change? And you're sharing, not your children. See, here, this is the realm of the religion. Because there are two types of womb. One is the physical womb, where a child grows in physically. When it comes, it enters the social womb. He has to, she has to, for at least 15 years. Under a unified institution called family, where mom and dad are not against each other, are not fighting. There's a principle going on. And mostly these principles are unified and acceptable all over the planet. A child growing in Hindus, they may hate Muslims, and Muslim family may not like Christians or other things. So the older wombs are not applicable either. Children out of this womb, they grow up with a great personality and they're fighting. But who can create love and trust in people? A man, you know him as a man named Baha'u'llah, which means glory of God. He has instituted family, just like Muhammad and Jesus and others. But the Baha'i family is not based on one rules over the other. That's classic. That's not working. It's based on personal attachment of the individual to the rule and the laws of Baha'u'llah. They, before marriage, they accepted Baha'i faith, therefore they don't drink. They don't do crime. They don't do drug. They don't cheat. They don't use violence. So these are not the threat for a man and a woman of the Baha'i faith to get together, that these things might happen between them. In any other case, this is not. So the freedom in the West destroys the family value because it creates a dead society, not an organic society. An organic society, like a living being, has to be made out of living cells. A cat, a dog, any biological being is made out of cell. But a stone, mountain, river is not made out of cell, it's made out of atoms. They're not made out of cell. An organic family is made out of cell, a living cell, and that living cell is family. Without it, you're not going to get it. Ironically, the Communist Party of China, since its inception right now, more than 60, 70 years, have not destroyed the family value. Because these things are done by adultery, by drug, by alcohol. None of that is legal in China. I mean, even if it's legal, nobody goes. I was talking to a Dr. Yunnan a few years ago when I was in China, in Beijing, in McDonald's. I told him the wages are low here. He said, yeah, but if the government makes the wages higher, then half the China will lose their workers. Because these capitalists, which we have, he says, they don't want to hire people. Because the price of the goods go up, nobody in the world buys it. As a result, they have to reduce the workers. And if they do that, people have no jobs. He understood this. He said, there's no other way, because we are 1.3 billion people. All of them have to work to make money. There's no handout here. Government creates jobs, so it keeps the wages down, so that everybody can have jobs. So in a hotel, like here, there's one guy in the reception. Go in a hotel in China, there's 50 people out there working. They are paying the same amount, but too many people. It's kind of like job sharing. So the dispute between these two, as a Baha'i, I'm going to give my opinion. I'm going to have to side with China, with CCP. I know they're communists, they don't believe in God. But believing in God means nothing. Because no one knows what God is, in that sense, to obey Him. Finally, it comes to act. Baha'u'llah says a Baha'i is not by name, it's by act. We consider the act, if an act is a Baha'i act or not. Words have no meaning. Number one that I've sided with them is that they have a unity. So China is an organic society. China, the whole thing is a being, is a team. It's like a body of a man made out of millions, billions cells. It's an organized being. United States, and freedom as it is, it creates a mass, not a team. This is what Aldous Huxley says. Team will beat the mass. China is a team, because government doesn't allow it not to be a team. And this is what Baha'u'llah says. Unity of the people have to create something else, higher and bigger than the individuals. Because that being, which is the government of China, takes care of his people a lot better than they are in the U.S. Look at the gunfight in the U.S. It's a social, dilemma, pandemic, cancer, whatever you call it, that will never stop, continues. It seems Chinese, after Mao's mistakes, economic mistakes, when Deng Xiaoping saw Mr. Carter, Jimmy Carter, He asked the help of America even. And he introduced capitalism. Slowly. They learned from Hong Kong. They brought all those people in Hong Kong, allowed them to come to mainland China and do investment. So they said to U.S., yeah, you had some idea, we found that we're wrong, we stopped that, we're following you in a way. But we're not going to accept your social values because you have none. It's an anarchy. The United States and Western countries are anarchists. There's so many people are dying. Media doesn't say all of it. So many abuse is taking place because there's a freedom as in jungle. Anybody who's bigger is going to beat the smaller one. China can't do that. You can't fire a person from his job just like this. So in that way, we can see this unity, which is a part of the major plan of Baha'u'llah, is taking place in China a lot better than any other place. So I have to side with them, that they are in line. So, the second thing is that Baha'u'llah in Kitab Aqdas absolutely reject the type of freedom that is in the West. He says that's animalistic. Because basically you're saying man is free to do whatever they want. With respect to the gay community, if you're free to be gay and you're in the road and kissing each other and touching each other, what does my 12 years old son watching this is going to do? You are confusing him. But you can be gay in your house, do whatever you want to do, but you're advertising it. And the youngsters are vulnerable. You're converting them to something that they are not. That cannot happen in China. So that sort of freedom that is rejected in the Baha'i faith and comes through kind of a dictatorship in China is acceptable to me. Because Chinese in China, they're completely free. Whatever they want to do. They're not free to go and change people's mind against the government. You see? That's the only freedom they don't have. But they have all kind of freedom. Any freedom that no average man in the West is in China. I was there. Somebody cheated us. Took the money from us, and he didn't come. He brought somebody else to take us to Jinan, another city, with two other Chinese that couldn't speak English at all. We were suffering. We could not even tell them to stop to go to toilets or anything. So me and Lisa were getting both sick. We had to come back. He said, you have to pay me. I said, no. I said, what you were supposed to do, you didn't. And you wasted all my money into the highway. Now you want extra money for what you have not done? I call the police. I said to the hotel, call the police. Police came on Chinese, and one beautiful, tall woman who spoke English. I explained the situation. The guy took my passport, this other, officer, called to find out that I am who I am. And he said, we are right. He told them, go out. So you can clearly see he put down his own countryman with reference to us. He's not getting anything because the law doesn't allow it. So he took side with us. Therefore, there is freedom, for average person, which means 99.99. So I would say that this is the fact, but I'm going to have to say as well, credit to the Western societies, when there is dictatorship over the people's mind, yeah, we may not develop the great minds. And the great minds, as China knows, they could come up and act upon in the wrong way and destroy the society. But under dictatorship that I can't say what I want, people become belittled, they're humbled. Baha'u'llah has a different suggestion. There has to be a dictatorship. There's no way. Because if you give freedom to everyone, we know what happens. The big ones, they come in and they take over. Baha'u'llah says there is a dictatorship, and I am the dictator. To dictate to you what's right, what's wrong. But to execute this, it's your decision. So in the Baha'i Faith, there's no priest to tell people what to do, what not to do. In fact, admonishing people to do good or bad, or not to do bad, it's forbidden. We have no priest. So the Baha'i laws, which is the dictatorship of God, because he's dictating it, it's a contract between an individual and him. So they are accepting in a contract that not to drink, not to do adultery, not to do a lot of wrong things. In this case, there is a dictator, there is a police, but it's you over your own life. Nobody else. So if the dictatorship is necessary in the beginning, at one point China has to understand that there has to be a certain ethics that rules over the individuals. Something that cannot be partial. It cannot be just for one part of the world. It cannot be any of the old religions. There has to be something that is acceptable to everyone on the planet. Baha'i Faith in 150 years or more has proven followers from all over the world. All over the world. In a laboratory, we can see this is definitely an achievable goal. To bring people on their own will to certain practical principles. This is the problem with philosophy. We need philosophy to rule the government, to rule the society. Bad philosophy destroys the community. Mao Zedong is the #1 friend of all the Chinese and the lover of China, but he made a lot of mistakes. Caused a lot of death, a lot of problems. Because he's not God, he's not infallible. So the question comes, what do we do about it? And science is easy. Science has 5 channels, or 5, senses. We see it, we hear it, we touch it, we smell it. Based on that, we examine things and we create things, and it's universally applicable, workable, usable all over the world, like medicine, like an airplane. The rules of the science are clear. The same doesn't exist in philosophy. There are different opinions. So the only way that you know it, you have to bring it into experiment. You have to make it to work to see. But it could destroy the society. Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran did that. He thought he can introduce religion into the politics, but it destroyed Iran. Yeah, it's a learning lesson, but at what cost? So here we have to see who is the real philosopher. And we have to follow Karl Marx, a scientific philosophy, a philosophy that does not go against science. It has to work within the scientific understanding and approaches, and goes extra where science cannot go, and postulate things. But again, the problem is that we really don't know. There's no basis. This is exactly what Baha'i faith and the role of the spiritual theory of Baha'u'llah is. I will prove it to you. He's infallible in his philosophy. His words, his laws, his rules for today is an absolute truth for today, but is relatively or going to go wrong when another 1,000 years. If you really look, the rule of Islam or Christianity, whatever people they could get it, it did work. It caused a lot of great things in the world. But like Mao, they had bad leaders that they came and did a lot of other bad things. So it's a kind of double-edged sword, but not Baha'i faith. There is no priest in the Baha'i faith. And like any religion in the past, it has a practical system that governs it. It's called the World Order of Baha'u'llah. But based on what he says, for example, drinking is forbidden in the Baha'i faith. We don't discuss now drinking. He says opium or any things like that is forbidden. So I don't use it and we don't discuss it. But he does put a leeway. He says, unless a doctor says that. My law, he says, can be abrogated by a doctor for one individual, not for the whole society. If a doctor says it's okay for you, you have to take this opium or morphine because you're in the room, because we're doing surgery, that's fine. You can abrogate the law of Baha'u'llah, a doctor. Not any doctor, certified, he says, physician. Otherwise, no. But these laws, it's a contract between people and God. This is what China has to, and the member of the CCP have to understand. It's not just the economy, and it's not the social values, but you have to have the third one, which is the spiritual value, side by side. Otherwise, all your rules and laws by progressive mind of your citizens will become all outdated, and you're facing revolution and chaos. Okay? So, I decided, after this introduction, to come down based on the scientific philosophy, on the one hand, and the writing of the Baha'u'llah, to come and start from the beginning, about the origin of existence, origin of the material universe. What is the role of religion? Why prophet exists? Why God exists? Is there a thing? I'm going to speak about all of these things to create a sound philosophy, which is scientific. Scientifically cannot be repudiated, put it this way. Scientifically, you cannot prove everything. Because that's what the philosophy is. As long as philosophy does not go against the scientific finding, it is safe. And as long as that philosophy is under control of one system in the country, in a given society, it is safe. If it goes in the hand of all kind of people, everybody comes and divide the brains of people, there's going to be chaos again. CCP is good for that. Baha'u'llah accepts that kind of a system, where minds are flourishing, but they're controlled by the society. For example, in our system we have universal laws of justice and future universal laws of guardianship. They might see a brilliant man proposing great ideas, but they might decide that this is not the time for it. People are not ready for it. They just bring in the society in the United States all of a sudden texting. There is no system to say that what are the benefits in this and what are, the bad things about this. They don't. They're turning individual into an informed individual with no brain, basically there's no wisdom. The guy talks and texts all the time. They're sitting beside each other, they don't talk. This is the bad things, separating individual from each other. More and more an individual and deprived from others. You don't have to see them. You can just talk to them without really talking to them. Everything that comes is a good thing, there's a bad thing, but there's no control, you see. So, thank you very much. And I will be speaking next, my next video, as the origin of existence scientifically. Thank you.